Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Codebase Alpha. This is episode 48, and we're taking a little bit of a break from the audio programming we've been doing recently, especially as last night we did have quite a good success in producing a really nice audio plugin. So we're going to actually go back to looking at our adventure game in the Alpha bot. I want to spend a few streams doing this because I want to try and kind of get this thing finished for a start, and also we're getting into the more interesting kind of parts of trying to get this this adventure to be a bit more like the original. And one of the things that's missing at the moment is in the original Colossal Cave there was a bunch of dwarves which kind of wandered around and attacked the player in certain parts of the cave system. So I'd like to try and do that. So I haven't really got a plan of how to do it. I've got some ideas, and what we're going to do is do my usual thing of trying to just evolve the design and then refactor and sort it all out as we go along. As obvious refactorings kind of emerge, we'll apply them, and we may even just completely change direction at some point. So it's going to be a bit speculative to begin with, but I've got a few kind of thoughts about how we can kind of achieve this. So let's just pop over into the code. So here we are in our event manager, which is the last piece that we wrote on stream. And this event manager basically is called every turn, every time the player moves, and it determines any random events or scheduled events which are going to happen. So for example, the very first thing that happens is that when the player reaches a certain location, which is the Hall of Mists, east end of the Hall of Mists, then we count the cave as being opened, and they get 25 points for doing that. And then the next thing that happens is that we have this thing labelled dwarves, and basically if we're in level 1 of the cave, and level 1 is the level is an attribute of a location within the caves, then if we haven't already encountered the very first dwarf, then we have a 1 in 3 chance of actually coming across a dwarf. And all that happens here is that the dwarf kind of wanders around the corner, throws an axe, which misses, and then it runs away, and it leaves an axe in the cave with you, which is your first weapon, basically. So this isn't a big kind of combat kind of game. We're not going to have hit points and things like that, but it's really kind of introduce a bit of hi Dragon. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. It's kind of introduce a bit of kind of jeopardy and a bit of excitement really to what is generally speaking a problem-solving kind of game. So the other thing that the events handler does is based upon our timers, our clocks. It will actually deal with the situation where the dragon rots. When you kill a dragon, dead body rots down to a dead red dragon, and then you get the opportunity to get some more loot from that in terms of a dragon's tooth, which will be worth points at the end. So okay, let me think. What's the best thing to start with? I think we need to know a bit more about our adventure caves, really, our adventure locations. We don't know enough about them in order to have wandering monsters. The kind of things we need to know is, are there dead ends, and how many exits there are from a particular location, because we're going to want our dwarves, our wandering monster, to kind of wander around in the caves and not just get stuck in dead ends. So let's go and have a look at adventure location. Okay, adventure location is this class here. It's quite brief. It's got a whole bunch of parameters, including level, and if it's the starting location, is it dark, is the water present at this location, etc. It also has a list of valid moves, and that's what we really need to kind of leverage, how many valid moves there are. So let's add another property. So we're implementing the iAdventure location, so we're going to need to have another property on here. So this is going to be int number of exits, and this is going to be equal to valid moves dot count. Okay, so we just have a get set on that. Just a get on that. That was for default implementations, and I've not got the right level of support of my settings for my project to have default implementation, so we couldn't do that bit. Okay, let's do it over in adventure location then. So we'll have public int number of exits. Let's just use this feature to implement the interface. There it is, and we just then say, we can instantly say that's going to be equal to valid moves count. So that's how many ways out of the room there are. We've got level. Okay, well that's one thing we need to know. So let's going to check it on my locations. And I've got a maze here. There's an all alike maze. I want to see what level it is. And it hasn't got a level in, so we need to make this level 1 because I want the dwarves to be able to wander around within this level. Dragonite, it's C#, yeah. So this is what I kind of program in mostly. So I'm thinking at the moment. I've got some. I'm thinking whether we need to, yeah, we want the dwarves to be able to wander around inside the maze. So the maze is the twisty turny maze of all passages all alike. So this is intended to confuse the player, and having dwarves in there is going to make it even more confusing. But let's add the level property to this. So level is going to be 1. And I'm just going to go through quickly and add this to all of the rooms in the maze. We've got quite a bit of setup really to do before we can get to actually trying to implement a wandering monster. Let's have it so it can wander at least a reasonable distance. And I'll show you the map in a second. One. So apologies for having to just go through and add these properties. It shouldn't be too long in actually before we start to think about how to actually create a wandering monster. And then we need to actually control its movements, and we're going to want to actually see it move. We're going to have some kind of logging, I think, so we can make sure it is moving around, or the monsters do move around. Okay, and there, there, and here, pirate chest location. So one of the doors is going to be the pirate. The pirate kind of haunts the maze and steals all your stuff. But we're not going to kind of work on the pirate today. We're going to work on the other dwarves that kind of wander around the first level of the cave. Okay. So we've got our adventure locations. We can know how many exits there are. So what do we need in terms of a wandering monster? Let's create a wandering monster class. So let's add a new class. We'll call it wandering monster. And make that public. So what are the features of a wandering monster? Well, do we need a class to start with? Can we get even simpler than having a class? Let's kind of retract that. Let's not go as far as having a separate class for the moment. Let's go over to our adventure game, and see what we've got in here. So we've got a list of players, because notionally it is multiplayer, but in fact, in practice, it doesn't quite work as multiplayer yet. We've got a dungeon. The dungeon has adventure location, starting location. It has locations. Okay. So let's try. Okay, let's try to have a public property which will make a list of adventure location. So this is probably going to change. We're going to give this a go. And this is going to be Wandering Monster. It's going to be a new list of adventure location. Okay, and we've got builder build game here. So what's the builder? The dungeon builder. Where are we getting that from? So that's new Colossal Cave. Colossal Cave is here. It's got a dungeon builder. The dungeon builder is going to return all the locations within the cave. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly what we should do here. Okay, I don't think we want to interfere with the dungeon builder necessarily. Adventure game, we get a new dungeon. Dungeon, we get all the locations. This is a list of locations. We've made this iAdventure location, can't we? So that we're not on a concrete type there. Okay. We need to populate our wandering monsters, don't we? So what's the easiest thing we can do? I think the easiest thing we can do for now, and this is not ideal because it's in the wrong location, but we're going to need to create our wandering monsters somewhere. So let's create them. So I'm not entirely convinced that dungeon's the right place for them. I might want them at the game level. Adventure game. Yeah, I think we want them at the adventure game level. So let's take this for the moment and put it at the top level, which is game. I think I've always got a reference to game. So we've got dungeon and we've got a list of wandering monsters. Wandering monsters. No, wandering monster. And here we set up our new game. We can pass a dungeon in, but here we're using this builder here to get Colossal Cave. So let's do it here. Where do I call this? I'll just do new adventure games. It's correct. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So locations. So dungeon dot try get location. Okay. So we're going to put some wandering monsters. We're going to put them into initial locations. This should be an adventure location. The name location doesn't exist, so we're going to say var location. This is going to be adventure location. And we can get an out var, can't we? Out var like that. Okay, so the Hall of Mountain King is going to be our first location. Location 1. Let's add to our list of wandering monsters. Wandering monster dot add location. And let's have, these are going to be dwarves basically, but we'll call them wandering monsters to begin with. So location 1, location 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is kind of what the way I tend to kind of do these designs is to try and work them out over time. So this is not necessarily how it's going to end up. So Dungeon Ike, a new dungeon class that generate a maze of rooms for you. Yes, it does. It's not a maze. It's actually a laid out, planned set of it's a planned set of locations, so it's not random in that sense. So we're going to put one in the we're going to put one on the western side of the Fissure West. We'll put one in Y2. So you won't, if you're not been following the stream, you won't know what these locations are, but I will explain at some point very shortly. We'll put one in all alike 3. So one is in the maze. We'll put one at something called Complex Junction. We'll put one there, and we'll put one near the pirate chest cave. Okay, so that's our wandering monsters setup. Okay, so those are their initial locations. And they're going to sit there until the player disturbs the dungeon. So let's show you what the dungeon actually looks like. So we want Castle Cave map. Because that's the real colossal cave. I think. Where's the best place to get the map from? Did I store the map away? Don't think. Or did I actually add the map into here? I don't think I did. I was going to add the map into the code. Can't see a map in there. Okay, we'll find the map. There's a link in here somewhere. Rick Adams' page, that's where we've just been. Something like his page. And picture. Let's cut down the number of things we have to look through. Funny this finding these pages after you've there you are. There we go, this is what I wanted. Okay. So let's open the one with the clues on. Okay. So this is the you might have come across this one. You start off outside this building and you crawl your way into the actual cave system, and it's this area here, Hall of Mists, Long Hall, Maze. This is the Pirate Maze, the All Alike Maze up here. This is the area where we want the dwarves to be able to wander. So we've got one starting here in the Hall of the Mountain King, one in Y2, one on the west bank of the fissure of the Hall of Mist, which is here. We've got one inside the maze and one by the pirate chest. We want them to start moving around now. So we need to figure out how to do that. Okay. So let's go over to our event manager. So this event manager is called every time the player moves. It's the last thing to do. We check for events for our player. So what have we got available to us here? Have we got the dungeon? Have we got the game? Yes, we have got an instance of game here. So we've got our game. Okay. So the player has encountered the dwarf for the first time, and we've added an event to the player's event record to say they've encountered the dwarf. So that is what we're going to key on. So we're going to say if player dot event record dot contains key event IDs dot dwarfs. So it's encountered the initial dwarf. So the dwarves are now going to become active, because the idea is that Gnome Jodas, thank you very much for the follow. Have some Electric Elf hype to celebrate. This is our alien buddy Alf, who's as you see, he's got these paranormal powers to light up like electricity in order to hype the fact you've followed. So thank you very much for that. So okay, so where are we? Okay, so we've encountered the dwarves for the first time. The dwarves throw an axe at the player and run off, and so that's kind of going to stir up the dwarves into action. So we want them to start moving around now. So we want to initially we want a for each var dwarf in game.wandering monsters. So game, for instance, a game doesn't have wandering monsters yet because we need to add it to our interfaces. So let's go and do that. So adventure game is here. It's got read-only adventure game as its interface. So we're going to add that. We're going to add that to it. It's read-only, and we can bring in the namespace for the generic list. Okay, we can get rid of that as well. Keep it tidy. Okay, so I'm being a bit vague at the moment because I'm still thinking about how many, how we're actually going to do this. I've been coding in C# GNOME.js for about 14 years, but I don't know everything about .NET, so you know, it's a huge subject. Okay, so that's our read-only adventure game. So we want a getter on that. So we should now have access in here to our wandering monster. It should be called wandering monster, shouldn't it? So we'll change it. Just see if it reads a bit better in that piece of code there. So let's update that and also go to here and just change that to wandering monsters. Okay. Event manager. So for each of those, right. So they're going to start off in their starting locations, and we want to check whether they're actually in touch with a player at the moment. Are they in the same room as a player, or are they near a player? GNOME.js is starting this summer. It's really been big compared. It's really big compared to a Bash script or JavaScript. It's quite a big, because it's the entire bot. It's not just the game. It's all the other parts of the bot as well. So the GraphQL endpoint. The bot works in Discord and in Twitch and in Slack. We've got Hangfire as our kind of background processing system. We've got cognitive services for. We've got a command called ask, which basically enables you to ask any question, and the bot will try to answer it. So yeah, it's a pretty big set of projects. So we're working in the core at the moment, the core project. And we're working on in this game section. We've got one game, which is the adventure game, which is pretty big. Okay, so we need to make these things start to move around. So let's just have them move around to begin with. So how are we going to do that? So so for each dwarf, we need to look at the location where the dwarf is. So the dwarf is a location. So dwarf dot, and we added number of exits, didn't we? Okay, so number of exits. That's how many exits that we can utilize. So we want a random number between 1 and the number of exits in the room. So so we can var move to is going to equal get random and the number between 1 and the number of exits from the room. So that's where we're going to try and move to. Yeah. So what we really want to do is actually build an array of all the places where they could go to. So this is probably not the thing we want to do. So we'll say for each var direction, each move in dwarf.valid moves so then we can say something along the lines if move dot. So what's a move? A move is I play a move. Okay, so let's go to an adventure location. I play a move. So it's got a destination, which is a location. Okay. So that's move dot destination. So we need to use our try get location again, don't we here? So we can say var potential move is going to equal game.dungeon.tryGetLocation, and this is going to be move out var location. So move should be move dot destination. Okay, so we've got a potential move. So then we can say something along the lines of if potential move dot. Okay, we haven't got an awful lot on that, have we? What's this? This is a adventure location. What's adventure location give me? Give me all that, so I should have all those on it. Let's go back and have another look. So potential move. Why haven't I got all of my... Oh, that's a boolean, that's why. This is going to be, we want potential move here. If found. So found. So if found. And the potential move dot level is 1, and the potential move dot number of exits is greater than 1, because we don't want to go into dead ends. Then we want to add this to our possible moves. So var possible moves is going to be a new list of let's go and look at the move command. So how do we actually move around? So we say that we just move to a destination, and destination is a location. Okay, that's fine. So it's going to be destination that we want over here. So it's going to be a list of location. Like that. Oops. And we need to bring in a namespace for the generic connections. Okay, so we've got our possible moves. So if we, so we can then add our potential move to that list. That's going to be that's going to be move.destination, in fact. Okay, so that's going to build up a list of where we could possibly go. So for each move the dwarf has, we're going to build up that list of possible locations we can go to. Why I'm using var instead of int or string, GNOME, that's because it's less letters than string, for example, and it's also it's still strongly typed. The compiler will actually work out what the type is, and I don't like having to write, for example, in this line, I don't like having to write list angle brackets location possible moves equals new list angle brackets location, because it's obvious what the type is because I'm doing that. There are some situations as well where you don't really know what the type's going to be, so we can use it in that. It's like auto, it's exactly the same as auto. So it's called var, and it does mislead some people into thinking it's no longer strongly typed, but it is. It's exactly like auto. It's a strongly typed variable at that point. So if I hover over, you can see that is an iAdventure location. So rather than writing iAdventure location there, it's just 3 letters. I'm a big believer in using var. I use it most places. The only place I wouldn't use it perhaps is where it's not really obvious what the type is. In the case of a for each, I know what Wandering Monsters is. I could possibly there say this should be of type iAdventure location to make it perfectly obvious what we're dealing with here, because that may not be an obvious thing that dwarf has valid moves. But I think if it's a dwarf and it's got some moves it can make, it does actually kind of make sense. Okay, so we got our list of places we can wander to. So let's say that our move to location is going to equal get random number between 1 and possible moves count. We don't need the brackets. So that's our move to location. So this is now completely random movement. This is not exactly what we want, because we actually want them to move randomly until they encounter a player, and then they're going to attack. And if the player runs away, we want to follow the player around. Okay. So move to location is going to be that, and so then we can say that so the dwarf is now going to be dwarf dot we want it to move, so what's the way we move over here? We get the location, so we just want to change its location, don't we? This is where we want a proper wandering monster, rather than it just being a list of locations. So we can say that this dwarf is now going to equal game.dungeon. That's not going to be equal to it. It's going to be game.dungeon dot try get location, move to location, and out dwarf. Okay, because it's a for each. Okay, so we can't directly affect it like that. Okay. So far game.wanderingmonsters.toList. Look it to an array then. That's fair enough. Oops. And then we want new location, var new location. I've used new location before, obviously. We'll just call it move to for the moment. No, it doesn't like it, does it? Why does it think move to locations an int? Okay, so let's move to location. Move to location. Oh, it's a random number. Okay, that's why. Okay. So I'm just getting ahead of myself here. So we've got one of them. So it's going to be this location we're going to go for. It's going to be possible moves. So this, we want this to be -1, don't we? Move to location. And then we want for new location. And then we want to move our wandering monster. So we're just going to have an index there, and we're going to say that game wandering monsters I is going to now become a new location, and I'm going to increment I. That should actually make our dwarves move around the dungeon caves. So they're going to stay on level 1. They're not going to go into dead ends, is what that's kind of saying. Right. So we're going to need a way of actually figuring out if that's actually what is happening. Let's have a look at our teleport command. Our teleport command will allow us to kind of to mess with a lot of these. It enables us to test a lot of this stuff. It's not a real command. We're not going to be using a teleport command in the actual game. It's just for testing. So so let's also set the dwarf thing in motion. So dwarves. So we're going to set the dwarves as being active as soon as we teleport into. So where are we teleporting to at the moment? Secret East-West Canyon. So let's teleport, in fact, to the Hall of Mists, east side. Okay, so what we're going to do when we start the game, we're going to teleport directly to this location here, and that should set the dwarves in motion as we move around. So then we should be able to put a breakpoint in our event manager. Here and observe it. Oops. Go away. We put the breakpoint there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the bot up. You'll get a message in chat saying the bot started. But don't worry about that. And then we'll bring up Slack. Okay, the bot should be starting up now, and we'll bring up Slack. Okay, so our bot is running. We can close some of this down so it's not quite so bright. And the way we start playing is we just type here command !ADV, and now I'm in kind of private conversation with the game. And now here we are. We're at the end of a road, standing at the end of the road before a small brick building. Around is a forest. A small stream flows out of the building, etc., etc. There's a mailbox, a leaflet in the mailbox, and there's a source of water, which is the stream. So let's go into the building. So in order to command it, we have to use the ADV command again, and we can say something like go in, or go into the building, and then ADV look. I'm going to try and work out why I don't have to put the ADV in front of everything, but at the moment we do. So there's a key, battered lamps, glass bottle, food, water. So we'll just get the lamp. So we'll take a lamp because we need the light, otherwise we won't be able to see. And we'll light the lamp. So now we've got a lamp shining brightly. We can look at our inventory, and you can see we've got a lit lamp. And now we're going to do the teleport command. And we're in the Hall of Mists. So we're on end of a vast hall stretching forward out of sight to the west. Openings to either side, nearby a wide natural staircase leads downward. Hall is filled with wisps of white mist, swaying to a flow as if alive. A cold wind blows up the staircase. There's a passage at the top of a dome behind you, which is what we just come down. Well, we would do if we crawled down normally. So let's what we're saying here is if we make a move now. So if we say ADV go down that staircase, which the wisps of mist, or the cold winds blowing up the staircase. Let's go down. So we now hit our break point. Okay, so our dwarves are going to be defined here. So let's step over this. Here's our dwarves. We've got 6 dwarves. Hall of Mountain King, Fisher West, etc. So now for each of the dwarves, they're going to move. So for our first one's going to be the Hall of the Mountain King. So let's see where that could possibly move. So Hall of the Mountain King here. So that's Hall of the Mountain King's here. So it could go north, south. But south is a dead end. It could go into the west side chamber, or it could go southwest in this secret canyon, or it could go up or east and end up at the Hall of Mists, which would be interesting. So let's see what happens. So this is the dwarf that's at the Hall of the Mountain King. You can see. So Code Rush is helping me here. It's with its visual debugging, so it tells me where everything is. So possible moves. So we're going to work out the possible moves now. So let's go through all these. So we should get a list of possible moves at the end of it. So the possible moves. There's 2 possible moves it reckons. Hall of the Mountain King or the Hall of Mists East. That's interesting, isn't it? So we think there's more than that, but one was a secret. So I think it could have gone north into the low northwest passage, or into that side chamber. I wonder why it didn't decide to do those. Okay, well, never mind. Let's see if we go to a new location. New location, I think, stayed where it was, didn't it? This is on the Fisher West. So we haven't. One thing we haven't done here is all of this west. I don't think this is quite working as we wish. So this level must be the problem. So let's stop there and go and look at our locations. Okay, so we had, where were they? We think we could have gone into the secret east-west canyon. The southwest side chamber is a dead end, so it shouldn't have gone in there. So the low north-south passage and the west side chamber. Low north-south passage is level 1, so it should have wanted to go into there. It's got 2 exits. Okay, one of them is coming back on itself. That's probably the issue. We don't want it to come back to itself. And then the other one was this west side chamber, which is west side chamber, which also has got 2 places it could go. So it could have gone to the crossover. It could have gone in there. So let's go and look at our logic. Our logic isn't quite right, I don't think. Okay. Potential move is an eventual location. So let's stick a breakpoint. Each move in valid moves. Let's stick a breakpoint here this time. Run it up again. Okay. Bring up Slack. Let's get rid of that and bring up Slack again. That's Skype. Slack's here. Okay. So we need to do the same thing again. We need to start the adventure again. ADV. We're going to then ADV go in. Go in. ADV get lamp. ADV light lamp. Then ADV teleport. Okay, so we now should be in the Hall of Mists. And we're going to make our move. So we're going to go ADV go down. And we should hit here. Okay. So we've got our dwarves, our 6 dwarves. The first one's a Hall of Mountain King. Possible moves is currently an empty list. The valid moves, it's got 2 valid moves. It could do a move. Okay, that's interesting. I see the problem. I see the problem. It's because of that snake in the way. Okay. Okay, I'll show you what the problem is. So let's just stop there. If we go and look at the Hall of the Mountain King, it's probably not the best place to start off one of our dwarves then. You can see that the Hall of the Mountain King basically only has two places you can go. You can stop where you are, or you can go to the Hall of Mist, because there's this snake, a vicious snake, barring your way. It's only when you get rid of the snake that the other options open up as a player. But we're not operating as a player here. We're operating as the dwarf. So let's start our first dwarf somewhere else. Where's the best place to start them? I think it just means it's going to either stay where he is or move up here, doesn't it? Really, is that such a bad thing? This is a difficult one because this is a kind of pivotal kind of thing the player's got to solve to get past the snake. That opens up for the player these other passageways. We almost want Wandering Monster valid moves as a type, so the monsters can move more freely. Well, let's not do that for now. Let's leave that as it is and look at the second dwarf. So the second dwarf, where did we start that dwarf off? We started that dwarf at Fisher West. Okay, so that's on the west side of the fissure. And quite legitimately, it can't cross the fissure. It can't cross over there because you need to use magic to get across there. But it can go up into the maze. It can go to the west end of the Hall of Mists. So it's West Bank it should be at, not the west end. So let's just correct that. Fisher West. I think that's right. Fisher West should be the right place. On the brink of a... Okay. Okay, well let's follow that dwarf instead of the first dwarf and see if that does move around randomly. The other one's going to basically either stay where it is or move off to the Hall of Mists. Okay, so let's bring up Slack over here. Start the adventure again. I'm going to go in, get the lamp. Light the lamp. Teleport. And then we're going to, where can we go? So it says the openings to either side. Go south. So where's south going to take us? So we're in the Hall of Mists and we're going to go into the Golden Nugget Room. Okay, so we'll go south. That should kick off a move. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the cursor at the breakpoint there, and we're going to continue till we get the second. Oh, we've hit a exception. So we've got no exits, no possible exits. Okay. Go north. Oops. Forget my own rules. Add, go, north. Okay, so we've hit here. So once again we're at the first dwarf. This is the one that's in the all alike. So it's currently in all alike 5. It's possible moves. There's 3 possible moves. The possible moves are it's going to go to either all alike 1, all alike 6, or all alike 6 because it probably loops round. Our random location is going to be location number 1, which is all alike 6, I believe. And we've moved from 5 to 6. So it is moving. So let's have the next one. This is in Fisher West. So according to that, it can only go to the Hall of Miss West, which is probably right, and it's going to go there. So let's see where that is. So it's gone from here, West Bank, to the Hall of Miss West End, and from here it could go presumably back there, or south, or to the east end of the Long Hall, which is good. So let's continue, and we hit another error. So interesting. So if it can't, it's almost if it can't move. One of them can't move. Okay, so that's gone from all light 5 to all light 1, which is good. Fisher West. New location is going to be to location 0. Which is basically staying what it is. It's pretty much trapped, isn't it? This next one's coming along. It can go to low passage or jumble of rocks. It's going to go to low passage from Hall of Miss West, which is good. This one is starting out all like 3. It's going to go to all like 4, we'll do it. Complex Junction, this one's at. I think Complex Junction's the problem one. It can't go anywhere, I don't think. Yeah, that's the one. That's the problem. So Complex Junction, where are we talking about with Complex Junction? There's Complex Junction. Complex Junction's down here. It's probably got no level 1 exits here. So we're going to need to build some in here. So there's shell room. Some of these dungeon rooms don't actually exist yet, so that's probably one of our problems as well. So Complex Junction, where? So I don't have this room, for example, with a chained bear in it yet. So it's going to run into trouble, that particular dwarf. We don't want them going too far from level 1. I think maybe I'm just wondering if not to have that particular dwarf at this stage. Let's not have that particular dwarf at the Complex Junction. Let's just comment that out for now, because all the others should be okay. Because the pirate chest cave guy can move around, all the light 3 can move around. Okay. So those they should wander around okay. So Y2 is the other one to look at. So Y2 is a room. It has Jumbo Rocks, low passages, and window 1. So window 1 is at level 1. It is. Jumble of rocks. That is level 1. Field of rocks leads back up to there. Window won't go into, and there's this one here. Low passage should go to dirty broken passage. Low passage north south. Let's have a look at that. So yeah, we haven't built location broken passage yet, which is why it's going to be limited there. Okay, well that's fair enough. So we've got our I want us to walk around a bit. Let's just close some of these off. West slow passage. Event manager. Okay, so they're kind of walking around, so we can get rid of that. So I've got my little list here of things. So the first thing on my list is if the dwarf is dead, we pass over it. So let's have a look at what we've got in the way of locations. So we should have a location type here, location, and we've got nowhere. So if a dwarf gets killed, we're going to pop it into nowhere. So let's handle that. What we're going to say is okay, got to think about this. So we need to move that outside of our loop. So if dwarf dot location ID is not equal to location dot nowhere, then we want to actually make it move like that. Okay. So dwarf is not dead. Okay. So that's that bit. So if the dwarf is not dead, we can. If the dwarf is dead, then we don't bother doing anything. We just go to the next dwarf in line, and then they move randomly as long as they're not in the same room as a player. Okay. So if dwarf is not equal to player's current location, we got access to player. We should have player.color location. So if they're not in contact with a player already, then we want to actually make them randomly move. Not in same room as a player. That's the player. So move. So it's not quite the right condition yet, because if they're near a player, we want them to follow. But let's just kind of build it up slowly. I'm not going to build this entire wandering monster system in one session. It's going to be a couple of streams to get it working, and we're going to continue to refine it. But it's thinking this is a bit like I'm designing it as you go along, trying to get it stepwise kind of features built in. So we're now taking care of not processing dead monsters. We're looking at when they're not in the same room as the player. So else they are in the same room as the player. They're in the room with the player. So what they're going to do, they're going to attack. So we want to know how many are going to be in room. So what's my next page of notes? Okay. So this is all going to be refactored off into its own code at some point, because we don't really want all this code living in this one big method. But we're going to just build it kind of stream of consciousness style to begin with, and then refactor it as we need. So we're in a room with a player. So we need to determine how many attacks are going to be, what the potential number of attacks. Okay. So I think what we need to do is to have a look at so they move, the player moves, these move around, and then we're going to kick off an event which is going to be something like this. So the dwarf, there's an angry dwarf in the room with you. So let's post a message to the player at this point, just to say that there's a dwarf in the room. So there is an angry looking dwarf in the room. Okay. So the other thing we've got to think about is they move. Okay, well let's try this out and see what happens. I'm slightly kind of worried that they're going to kind of, if we have the player and the dwarf in adjacent rooms and they kind of cross over each other, they're just going to kind of miss each other like ships in the night. I mean, we're not actually going to see. We're we're not actually going to see the dwarf. It's going to kind of pass us by. Okay. Let's bring over Slack again. I think we're going to have to build in some logging at some point as well. Okay. So we go in. Like the lamp. Then we'll teleport into the dungeon. We go down. So when we go down, we're going into the Hall of the Mountain King. No, we won't go down. We'll go south. We'll go north again. So I wonder where the monsters are now. So let's have another look. Let's pop a breakpoint in here, and we're going to go south again to the gold room. Just typing go south in there. So we've hit here, and we've got a dwarf in the Hall of the Mountain King. And where's it going to go to? We need to sort out these moves so it can move freely. It's just basically staying where it is. That one is. Continue. And then we'll do add, go north. Hit here again. Once again, this has got 2 places you can go to. This is compared to 0 again. Random number between 1 and 2, and it's picked 1 again. Okay, we're going to need to have it. We're going to need to do something about the moves that these monsters can make. They're going to be able to move freely, haven't they? Okay, let's run this up again, and we're going to go through the basic part of the dungeon and defeat the snake. I think that's the thing to do. What we need to be able to do is go down into the Hall of the Mountain King. We can't just go and do that. So let's start again. Adventure. Okay, so this time we're going to go in. We're going to grab the lamp. And we're going to light the lamp. Anything else we need in here? I think we can do that the rest of it. And then we're going to use a magic word, X, Y, Z, Z, Y. Sorry, add X, Y, Z, 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 Y. Okay, we're now inside the caves. So let's have a look where we are. We're in a debris-filled room. There's a black rod. So we're going to go west. Actually, we need to go east. look here, we should see a cage. Grab the cage. Got the cage. Now we can go west. Go west. Go west. So this is the bird chamber. There's a little bird in here. So if we look, you see there's a bird singing cheerfully. So we've got the cage, so we can get the bird. Now carrying the bird. If we look at our inventory, we should see we've got a cage with a bird in it. There we go. Battered lamp, which is lit. A wicker cage containing a little bird singing cheerfully. So now we can teleport to the Hall of Mists. We're going to go down. I'm looking dwarf in the room with you. Okay. So if we look, we won't see the dwarf, but we'll see a vicious looking snake barring our way. So we need to add into, when we look, is there a wandering monster in the same room as us? Let's ignore that for the moment. We'll free the bird. Furious battles kills the snake. If we look, we still can't see the fact there's a dwarf in here with us. There's a dead snake and a bird. That's now opened up a lot more the exits. So now if we would look at the exits the dwarf could take, then there'll be a lot more of them. So I wonder where that dwarf is now. So we're going to go we'll go up in the Hall of Mists, and we'll stick a breakpoint here. We'll go down again. We've hit here. So the dwarf has moved off, even though it's in the same room as us initially. So we need to check if we've hit the room with the player when we go to the new location, don't we, as well? There's an looking dwarf in the room with you. Okay, so let's look at the move command. So where's the move command? So we want commands. Oh, it's up here, I think. Move. So we print out the information about the current location at some point. We want the look command, so we can see the dwarf if we look. Okay. Can see. With the players here, there are several things here. It contains that. So this is the items. So we also want to look at if there's any dwarves here, don't we? So for each dwarf in game dot game. What was it? Game.wandering monsters. See, it's changing that, isn't it? Naughty thing. Game.wandering monsters. We got not access to games underscore game. Wandering monsters. And then we can say something along the lines of if. So we'll have var numdwarfs is going to be 0. Put that up here. And then we can say if layer current location is equal to dwarf, then we can say numdwarfs plus plus, and then we can say if numdwarfs greater than 0, if numdwarfs is 1, then we can say description pen line there is a nasty looking in the room with you. So it's not quite finished. That's just the basics of it, because we're going to need, because they won't go into dead end rooms. If you're in a dead end room, okay, Dragon Eye, thank you for dropping by. It's really good for you. Thanks for the kind words about the stream. So I'd hope to see you again soon. If it's won't go into, we need to figure out how we're going to make it wait outside a dead end room. If players inside a dead end room, we want the dwarf to block the way. Okay, so the description there. So else we use string interpolation here. There are come on. Copy it. There are numdwarfs there are 2 or more, whatever nasty dwarves in the room with you. Okay, so that should take care of the look command. So what happens when you come across a dwarf? It's got to attack you, hasn't it? There's an angry looking dwarf in the room with you. So at the moment we're only going to cope with 1. We'll have some variation on this as well, I think. I think we will go back to having a class for our for our wandering monsters, and we'll give them some personality, like a mean-looking dwarf or a one-eyed dwarf and things like that, just so there's a bit of variation rather than they're all being angry-looking dwarves. Because one of them's going to be dressed as a pirate. That's going to be he's going to be one that kind of wanders around in the maze. Okay. So we're in the same room as the player. So so the dwarf is going to attack. So let's post some more messages. The dwarf lunges at you with a wickedly sharp knife. Okay, so it's going to attack us. So I haven't got quite a chance of being hit by the dwarf. Okay, we need a random number, don't we? So we still need this thing whether if the player runs away, the dwarf has got to try and follow them. But I don't think we're going to get to that today. So so there's going to be a chance that the dwarf is going to hit our player with his knife. It should be a fairly small chance. Don't know what the chance should be. 25% chance. So far to hit roll equals get random number between 1 and 100. If to hit roll is less than 26, player is hit by knife and dies. So that might not be the end game, but we'll figure out what we can do. What we can do, let's keep it quite simple. So if you get, so 25% chance you get hit by the knife and you're going to die. Obviously, if there's more than one dwarf in the room with you, then if you've got 5 in there, then there's 5 chances, 25% chances you're getting hit. So it's not good to be ganged up by dwarves. The knife sinks into your flesh and you feel your life blood. We get too graphic here, do we? Ebbing away. So we should be able to go to the end game at that point. So there is currently the only way to die is when you move and you're encumbered and you go down. So that will be what we need to do there. So add the player status of is dead, and then end of game. I'm not exactly sure what that's going to do at this stage, but we'll give it a go. It should be reported then the next. I think the problem with that is it's going to be players going to get another move, but we'll see. Maybe having another move is correct. That's going to be game or the underscore game. So if the player status is dead, then we don't want to go through any more of this. We want to break, don't we? In which case we'll drop out here. Okay, well, let's see what happens. Just make sure that build's okay. So I'm going to change the teleport command so we teleport into the Hall of the Mountain King. So currently we're in the Hall of Mists. Let's go into the Hall of the Mountain King. So we should be faced immediately with a dwarf. Okay, let's run the adventure and see what happens when we become face to face with a dwarf. Okay. Put that down. Go slack. This is where we're going to have a bit of a problem because I think the dwarf's going to do nothing initially. So, but of course we should actually move into the room rather than just appearing out of nowhere. So we're going to get the lamp again. Inside. Take the lamp. And right lamp. Then we'll teleport. See what happens. Teleported the Hall of Mountain King, so it hasn't reported the fact that there is a on arrival. It hasn't reported that there is a dwarf in there. So let's add look. That needs to happen. And that's looking dwarf in the same area as a vicious snake barring our way. So the dwarf lunges with a wickedly sharp knife. We got away with it, bulk of it. Run away. So this is where we want the dwarf to follow us. We've managed to run away, which is fair enough, but the dwarf should follow. You're Bam, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome to the stream. I've not seen before. Here's some electric alpha hype for your follow. So I really do appreciate every follow I get. So thank you so much. So we've now got angry looking dwarf being given to us twice. I wonder why. Have we really got 2? I don't think we've got 2 in there. Okay. We're going to get 3 now. Yeah. Oh. Okay, so we got 2 attacks. There were so I wonder if there really were 2 dwarves in that room. Can't see how there could have been. You've been killed. So we are dead at that point. That's good. So can they move? Just starts me off again. So that bit does work then. So we have died at the hands of a dwarf, which is pretty good in the context of things. Let's teleport into that room again. There are 2 nasty looking dwarves. So there were 2 dwarves in there. Interesting. That's the problem. We can just run away from them straight away like that without having to fight them. Okay, so we need to fix the thing the way it says Hall of the Mountain King. When we arrive, we teleported to Hall of the Mountain King. We need to get some description of if we've got dwarves in there. Basically that's part of a move. The teleport could be the problem. If we move, when we did the move, so if I go go down, we should get the report of the dwarves, and we've been killed again. Okay. Okay. So what to do about that? Let's look at the teleport command. That just tells us it did that. And what we'll do is on the part of the teleport command, we'll just grab the code from look. And we'll just pop that in there. Just so that teleport does tell us we've got dwarves in the room. It was look, wasn't it? Let's use a string builder in there. Append the lines. And be print out. That. Don't need it there though. Let's move it into the right place, which is there. Bring that namespace in. Okay, this that'll tell us. Okay, so player should be in scope at that point. What's wrong with that? That should be toString. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So I'm interested that they thought there were 2 dwarves in that room, and I don't think that another dwarf could have got in there. So let's put our what's the time? Coming towards the end of the time I've got available. So let's have a look at this code. So each dwarf, if it's not dead, so where did we start the dwarf? Maybe that dwarf could have got there. It seems to have done that an awful lot though. So we started a dwarf off in the Hall of the Mountain King. Yeah, and one at Y2, so it was that one that came down here, wasn't it? Presumably. Let's see. Let's put a breakpoint into there and run it up again and see if that second dwarf does come down and do us in. Okay, here we go again then. So we'll go in, get the lamp again, light the lamp, teleport. That's looking dwarf in the room with us. Okay, then we're going to go east. So we've got a dwarf in the Hall of Mountain King. He'll probably stay where he is, no doubt. He's going to stay where he is. Another one coming through. This is in the Fisher West, so he's quite a way away, so we're not worried about him. Where's this one? Y2. So he's going to move into the low passage, or jumble of rocks. So he's gone the low passage. Okay. So we look. So now we're going to go down again. Raphael, thank you for the follow. Wonderful stuff. Here's some Electric Elf to celebrate. Thank you so much for the follow. It's very kind of you. Okay, so now we're at the dwarves are going to move again. So the first dwarf. So yes, this is already in our room. So we say there's a dwarf in the room with you. It lunges at you, and it missed. Fair enough. So now the one that's in where the current location is Hall of Mountain King. The dwarf is in the Hall of Miss West. That's going to just wander around up there and not affect us. So the next one is, this dwarf is in the low passage. So if that comes into the Hall of the Mountain King, then we've got two dwarves facing us. That's one of its possible moves. Y2, back to Y2 is another move. It's going to go... Where did it go to, that dwarf? What's in all alike? I think it went back to Y2, didn't it? Let's just have a look at all the dwarves, where they are now. That's still in the low passage, that one. We've got one in the Hall of the Mountain King, one in the Hall of Miss West, one in the low passage, and then these are continuing. So the project command isn't working currently. Well, actually, no, because I'm at a breakpoint anyway. This is the bot that's I'm working on. So the bot commands, the alpha bot commands, won't work properly for you at the moment. What we're doing is working on our old school text adventure, which is based upon the classic 1970s adventure called Colossal Cave. And what we're doing is building in some wandering monsters. So we've got some dwarves that wander around and will kill you if they get hold of you. So he is wandering around inside the maze. So if we now continue, we should only have the one dwarf. Okay, so that dwarf it went back to Y2 or stayed what it was. It didn't come into the room, which is what I was worried about, in that we seem to have two dwarves in that Hall of the Mountain King pretty consistently. I can see what I'm going to need to do here is to build out some more of these locations so these things can wander around a bit. That snake's a problem for the one that's in here. Okay, we'll think about that one. Okay, so if I now I want to be able to attack that dwarf, don't I? That's what I want to do. We're out of time really to actually do that part of it. So one of the things we have to do is to attack the dwarf. Currently we don't have a weapon, but we'll sort that bit out. If I now go east again, oops, sorry, add go east, and then we just see where they move to. The one in the Hall of the Mountain King that always stays where it is. There's not enough variation there, so we're going to need to do some work with our random number generator, I think. And the one that's in the one that is currently in, there's another one in the Hall of Mountain King now. Okay. That's going to stay there. So they're going to get stuck in that location. We need to widen the. So I know what we'll do. Okay, so we need to sort out that random num generator there. So let's do that. So the random num generator needs to be something different. Bar die roll is going to be equal to get random number between 1 and 100. Okay, so we've got a random number between 1 and 100, and we've got possible count moves. So we'll say that what's the best way of approaching that? What's the best way of approaching that? Because the variation on this is too low. I hate having to think like this on the stream, because this is where I have to kind of sit down with a piece of paper and work out exactly what parameters we need to use for this. Tell you what, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it as it is, and I'm going to think about it, because I think we need to do something a bit. We need to kind of I'll show you what I do with other random number generators we've got. If we go to some locations which have random numbers in them, forest. I've got random move here. So I'll just do the same thing there. I think the problem we've got is the number of, if you've got a low number of options, the likelihood is the random number generator is not good enough to, it's more likely just to stay where they are. And I want these dwarves moving around rather than staying where they are, even when there's a low number of choices. I'm going to give that some thought. I don't want to make any snap decisions, because we've got something which basically is a functioning wandering monster, even though it doesn't wander very far, and the place we've started the monster in is limiting where it can go, because we've got a puzzle in that room, which is the snake, which is limiting the number of locations that the wandering monster can move to. Yeah, I'm going to finish it there, I think. Let's go and find somebody to raid. I'm just going to first thing we're going to do is just to commit those changes. So that's episode 48, and we'll come back to this piece of work next time, which will be next Monday. We'll sync that change up to GitHub. All the code that we write on the stream is in GitHub. There's a link just been posted actually into chat for my Discord and for the GitHub. There's more thought needed on this part of the problem, I think, and I'm not best placed at the moment, as I'm on vacation currently, to put much more time into it on stream, because I'm supposed to be actually on holiday. Okay, so that's been pushed up to GitHub. So yeah, you're welcome to grab that code, fork the code if you want to make some changes and submit some PRs. Otherwise, clone the code, it's yours to do what you want. Whatever you want to do with it. It's completely open source. It's MIT licensed, so you're free to work with it as you wish. Yeah, okay, let's find someone to raid. So it's been a fairly short stream today, but I do apologise for that. To say I'm actually not supposed to be streaming at all, really. Only because my wife has kindly allowed me to do so that I am. Okay, so let's go and raid Code Rush. If he's still streaming, yes, he's still streaming. So let's go and raid Code Rushed. Code Rushed. So do stay with the stream if you want to see Code Rush. He's a fantastic streamer. Lots of explosions and laser beams and wonderful stuff on his stream. And he's currently working on a D&D campaign management system, which is absolutely fantastic. So we're going to raid him now. So take care, everyone.